We took 3 houses, one built in 1917, that was Howard Claggett's house, an 1880 house, former fire chief's house, and a 1925 house, the Bagley house. And instead of tearing it down, because we needed all 3 houses for our law firm, we put in second floor walkways so that the whole thing works. It's one continuous thing. So I agree that it really is, repurposing is extremely important. But one of the concerns I have here is, at the beginning of this meeting, we were told that we were going to give some comments and then it would go back to our bosses. My understanding is that this is a taxpayer project. In effect, if it's bonds, whatever it is, the taxpayers of Medina, the city of Medina, are gonna have to pay for it. And I really do think that they need more of an input. I really do think they need to vote to figure out whether or not they really want to spend this money. And it appears that we keep being told it's early in the process. But, you know, there is already, the city signed on to pay for the architect, the county signed on, and architect contract is for the entire process, and it's 2.66 million. Then, my understanding is the county commissioners have already started a search for the construction manager for this, and then according to that document, the construction manager starts October 2nd. So I really think we are farther along in this process than we should be, considering the fact that this is the first time that the people who are concerned about how the square looks are actually being asked.
Construction manager is not the people who are gonna construct the buildings, and they're gonna be on board about a year before, we're at least a year out from any construction starting on this project. So we are early in the design process. The construction manager comes on board to help price the design, influence design, tell us what will or will not work from a construction standpoint. They are not hired to build the building, they're hired to assist in the design process. So we're still very early in the design
Aren't
process.
they like a general contractor?
They are, but in this function as a construction manager, they are brought on early to assist in the design process. Then when we get to the point of going out to bid to contractors, they assist in that process as well. We're a year away at least from construction.
So how long are we till the time that demolition starts?
Again, a year away. Yeah. There are many phases of design, schematic design, design development, construction documents, phases of work that we do. We're in the beginning of schematic design. So there's a year-long process of design, and we're just starting that. So don't make the word construction manager get you scared, because there's still a year of design to occur.
Yeah, but I still think it's important for the community to know that an awful lot of money has already been invested in this process without, at this point, having, finally getting some input from the public.
Pat, we made provisions in our contract with the county that if there were any major changes in the scope, that we will make adjustments as needed. If the project were to, say the city didn't become involved in it, then our contract will allow for that. So it's not as though they made this commitment totally across the board to us contractually. We've got flexibility if there's a change in direction on scope.
My understanding on the contract is that both the city and the county have signed the contract. And the contract says that it is for a project that's 38 million, and that yes, the city has the ability of maybe getting out of part of it if the scope changes. But I didn't see anywhere in the contract where it was any less than the 2.66 million, because that is a fixed price for a $38 million project.
But normally when we have lump sum contracts, we construction cost, and at that time, that was our best estimate based on previous studies, is what the total project would cost. In other words, that was a top end number, the 38 million. In other words, the county signed our contract, so they basically are bosses.
And the city council signed the contract also. The mayor signed the contract.
I can't recall if the signatures on it, or if they did a council ordinance to, cooperate with it.
They did both.
I can't remember.
And they did
Well, they
both.
went ahead and do an ordinance, I understand. Okay, I'll just leave it at this. There's flexibility in our contract, if the scope were to be reduced. I'll leave it at that.
Okay, and that's not how I read the contract, but obviously, this is not the forum for that discussion.
And I am happy to even meet with you and review it.
Great, that'd be wonderful. I'd be happy to do that.
So it can be increased too, through scope to increase it
Well,
also.
the only way the cost could increase would be if the owner instructed us to increase it.
Right.
Right, that's their call. Yeah. That's fairly typical for public buildings.
Do we have any more comments around the table? Yes, we do. Well, let's go back the other way then.
I just have a question. So we've all talked here about a majority of people are saying they don't want to lose the 1969 courthouse. So when you talk scope, which is vocabulary that I'm not familiar with, is the scope to include maybe not tearing down that courthouse? Because when I listen sometimes, it sounds like it's a done deal, and doesn't matter what we say, that courthouse is gonna go. So am I wrong in the way I'm looking at this,
Ma'am.
or I am wrong?
Well,
Larry wants to answer.
Well, at this stage, what we've done so far is to determine how big these buildings should be, in order to provide a good court function for Medina and Medina County for the next generation or longer.
Right.
That's our charge. How do you deliver the judiciary service that the citizens need? So that's our first charge. The second charge was to say, how much space do you need? How big the various offices gonna be, the courts, number of courtrooms, all those details. So we came up with a building program. And then the next step was to say, where will it fit and how will it fit? And that's pretty much where we are now. The question is still up in the air based on our contract in terms of city-county joint venture or county alone. And that's really for the two governmental bodies to decide. So these things are not cast in stone. Most public buildings like this go through a citizen engagement phase of some sort. The question is, when do you do it? We're doing it now, which is totally appropriate for the phase where we are in the work. Now we know what the county's and the city's needs are. We didn't know that, we couldn't be very effective to sit and talk with you. We know that. We know that it'll fit on the site. We know that we can do certain other things. We know what the sentiment of some of the leadership in the city and the county are. You're right here. You're the leaders. And we're listening, taking notes. So, as the former mayor said, I believe we can sit down and listen to each other, and then we can recommend back to our client, if I can say that, what we can do, what we can't do based on what the citizens have told us.
Okay.
Okay, I have a question. I'm not quite sure how the feasibility study could have been done to determine the space when, like, the domestic relations court was only talked to like 2 weeks ago. There's at least 2 other departments in the county that haven't been talked to, so I'm not quite sure how the space has already been determined.
The determination of the space is an ongoing thing. We did a feasibility study, to get our arms around what it might be, to determine if, yes, this is feasible to move forward. The county and city said, yes, this is feasible to move forward. So now we are flushing out the rest of that, and we're meeting with all the different departments in the city and the county that would be located in this facility to flush that out. And then we're gonna work on it, and then we're gonna go back to them again and say, here's what we heard, this is what we have for you now, does this work? Oh, we need to tweak this and this and this. It's a fluid process in terms of design.
When do
So,
you believe you'll be able to say, when's the target date to meet with all the stakeholders?
we have met with all of the stakeholders once, at least once.
That's not
We're meeting with them again.
That's not correct.
No, that's not.
The users in the building, I'm sorry, users in the building.
I also wear the hat as the president of the law library.
Mhm.
The law library has not been met with. And I would think we would be one of the stakeholders in the building.
Mhm.
So, you were incorrect.
Okay, well, I apologize for that, I know we've had conversations with you, we have not sat down and had a face-to-face meeting with you yet.
What happened is I called and,
Right.
very politely, I did manage to have a 15, 20-minute phone call with you, but I don't believe that that's meeting with the stakeholders.
You wanna continue around to?
I'd like to speak, because this is a public meeting.
Go
This
ahead.
No,
And we
the
can
public
all speak.
meeting.
is a public meeting, and I want to say something. We appreciate you're in a difficult spot, but I'd like to remind everyone here, they were given marching orders by elected officials.
Correct,
And those are the people who are responsible to all of you sitting here.
correct.
The elected officials and the community leaders who were on that task force.
And where are they now?
And those are the people who should be answering to all of you.
At home eating dinner.
So we appreciate your comments. Their hands are tied. It's the elected officials who are behind pushing this through. And those are the people who should have done their due diligence and met with all of you. And they should have met with all the stakeholders in that courthouse. And that's where you need to direct any animus.
And we have directed that, you have one of the elected officials, we try to get answers from and help from, and there is none, so you don't need to tell us, we're not trying to. Our elected officials are employed by us, and we've tried to get response from them, and we said we need a vote on this, and we're denied every turn, so.
So for those of the elected officials who were on that task force, and the county leaders, and the city leaders who were here, that were on that task force, to me it's really obvious your starting point before forging ahead should have been to meet with all the stakeholders.
Correct.
All
Yes,
of them.
yes,
And the
yes.
influencers.
And that's why I'm here tonight. That's the only thing, I want to thank you for the courage to say that. There has been a process mistake in this. You think we would have learned as a community that when you start thinking that the taxpayers' money belongs to the elected officials to do what they want to do with it, whether it be in private or a select group, you're just a short drive away from legal dysfunction. You would think we would have learned from what happened with the school board and the previous superintendent. We keep making process mistakes. It takes a lot of courage to be an elected official. I get that. I get that. And sometimes it's a thankless task. But please, it isn't rocket science. Some of the people who are major stakeholders in this thing were not consulted. They were not talked with. All you gotta do is talk to people, include people, get them some skin in the game. We're wasting our energy, we're wasting our time doing this. This should have happened a long time ago. You know, I'm sorry, it's a difficult thing. I know it's hard to talk to people that are from different parties and have different perspectives, but it's not rocket science. To the young lady here who's speaking, you're in a difficult spot. I appreciate that, and I want to be hospitable to you because I believe in hospitality. But I have to share that it is probably not the most felicitous thing, even to say to a community, with all due respect, the federal style courthouse that we have is not that great. It's not a wise way to say that. A better way to say that is, perhaps we can find a way to make a more consistent and significant architectural statement with the architecture on the courthouse. Make something, anything, except trying to say, your courthouse ain't much. I live in a Ryan built house. It ain't much. It's built in '79. You see it, you can see what my inside, you know where all the bedrooms and the bathrooms are. But if you come to me and say, you live in a track-built house, that it's a cookie cutter, just like all your neighbor's house, and you know, it's nothing, we're gonna burn it down. That's not gonna make me very happy. So I would ask, and I know it's a difficult situation, and you're not a politician, I get that. But just for the future, it's better, I think, maybe to, those of us who are able to see wider would get the message without having to say it so bold. So I'm sorry.
Can I comment on what you said?
Yeah.
A couple of people mentioned that not all the stakeholders have been.
That's right.
Consulted.
That's right.
And there's plenty of time to do that. I mean, if, and I was just talking to the commissioner, you know, we can meet with any stakeholder. We have a list of stakeholders. We do this all the time. Typically, we might get with a special stakeholder group, meet with them for an hour, and find out what their concerns are. And if there's a way we could get that organized so that we would know who the stakeholders are, then I think we can get it done pretty expeditiously.
Well, and that was the, this is one group, and there are 4 stakeholders here, so we're trying to get it down.
And are you going to look at the downtown businesses who might suffer in that 18 to 24 months? A lot of them were not even aware of this when we were getting signatures.
Well, can we just keep that as a percent? I understand that, but the scope of any disruption, we just don't know yet. Okay?
Well, 18, you know it's at least 18 months.
No, I'm just, what's gonna be disturbed? And so, if,
But they're just, all the people from the courthouse that frequent the restaurants, that frequent the stores will be gone.
okay. All right.
I'm just gonna throw 2 cents in on the side. I've been in administration and also been an elected official. And I've always operated on the process is more important than the outcome. And we have missed the process of making this decision totally because people should have been involved, questions should have been asked, knowledge should have been put out there before we put $2.66 million into somebody's pocket. And we have not done it right way. We're approaching it from top down, and anytime you build something at the top first, it falls down. You must start with the foundation and build up. Sorry.
No, I don't argue with anything that you're saying, but what's past is past. What we need to concentrate now on is where we go from here. I was very heartened to hear when Pat was talking about the contract. The city still has options. And I appreciate 5 members of 5 elected officials being here tonight to hear this discussion. And I hope that that will come back to your respective bodies and that you will think about this once again. But if I could return to the order of the evening, I believe that you had a hand up. Did you want to make a comment?
I would like to make a comment.
Great, thank you. First, can I get your name, please?
My name's Elizabeth Biggins Raymer. Can you my address?
No.
Okay. There were a couple of us that were late because this was scheduled at the same time the Historic Preservation Board was being conducted. And my question is, you've got stakeholders here of which the Historic Preservation Board is not on your list of items. You know, we would like to know whether any version, or as this morphs into whatever it may morph into, will this be brought in front of the Historic Preservation Board for their comments
Yeah.
and consideration and?
We're required to do that by your ordinance, your city ordinance. So, and there's recommendations, I know in your design guidelines, there's a recommendation to go before the board early, informally, and that's what we always like to do in the project that we're doing,
And
historic
you
or not.
guys will comply to whatever, will the county comply or the entities involved comply then with our feedback?
Well, we have to follow your process in terms of making applications and coming in front of you. And it's in everyone's best interest for us to come in front of you informally first before we make an application, so that we can address any concerns you have before we get to that point.
So you will comply with this, correct? Will you comply?
Yes, we have to comply whatever's in the ordinance.
No, that's an ask, will you comply to our recommendation?
I'm not the final decision maker, so I can't answer that question honestly, because I am not the final decision maker. We are,
Elizabeth, can I comment on that? Typically, we work with a lot of historic architectural boards, you know, that sort of thing in many years. And I will tell you that we've never had an impasse with this. And everybody's walked away, happy with the final solution. My confidence in your ability to tell us and our ability to present and to be creative and to do what we want to do, because we've just done it in the past.
Yeah, I mean, our role on the Historic Preservation Board, we've been, very blessed to, work with some great projects. There's one underway south of town currently, that have resulted in some historically appropriate and very, great additions to our city. So we would hope that we would work within that framework and incorporate our recommendations.
yeah, our goal is to make a successful project for everyone. So we're not going to intentionally do something that is not going to please, but I don't think we'll probably please everybody. You can never please everybody. But it is our intention to bring a successful project to the county and to the city.
I'm again gonna be out of order, but one thing bothers me. I see all the city folks here, and I said this at one other meeting. The bulk of this money is coming out of the townships and the counties. And I don't see a single county official in this room. I think county officials need to be met with one, and one guy who thinks he's running the show when he's reading. County folks should be here, because you folks are paying very little of the total dollar.
Exactly, that's why we want to vote.
Another point that does need to be reinforced is that on the 30th of July, the commissioners passed a resolution. And the resolution has a schedule in it to sign a contract with a construction manager who is in charge of the construction. And that contract is to be signed in accordance with the schedule in that resolution by October 1st. And that's a commitment for $38.5 million. So to say that things are preliminary, I think is misleading.
Yeah, that, the stakeholders, there's some very knowledgeable people in the middle, but all these people have come to meetings now. All these people on the exterior who are not stakeholders, but really are because they care enough to give up their evening to come tonight and the other night, and we want to have a meeting too. We want to have a one-on-one, we want to see what the plans are after it's been gone through them, or maybe before you do something that we think is wasteful of our tax dollars.
And we just volunteered to do that, so if any way you can get that, or if you'd like to lead that and get it organized,
Everybody come and sign my paper with your phone number.
and get the stakeholders that are not represented,
Yes.
then we can do that. Happy to do it.
Yeah, we'll do that.
Your name is?
Mary Emhoff, E-M-H-O-F-F.
So can I put in my notes that you're gonna organize the other stakeholders?
I will. Everyone here who's a stakeholder that's not in an organization, I'm just needing your name and number.
Are there more?
Yeah, I guess she kind of started what I was gonna ask, and that is, it seems to me, correct me if I'm wrong, that your bosses didn't give you a complete list of all the stakeholders. And that's what we need to do going forward is, and I don't know how we do that. Like you say, all the people from the townships, I think need to be represented, and any other group. And again, I don't know how we do that, she's gonna start that, I guess. But that's the thing, moving forward, we need to get the complete list of stakeholders.
I'm gonna start on giving my card right now.
There's
Okay, so I've got a couple, yeah, I mean, I think it's been, in a lot of ways, it's been a great meeting, and ought to be a great meeting for you and for the commissioners as well. First of all, if you look at the table here of the people that are represented from the organizations, you can see 20-some, 25 people who have a solid commitment and experience and engagement in taking care of the city. And it's not something that any of these people here are hoping you'll do or wishing you'll do. It is an absolute thing for folks here that the economy downtown matters. The economy downtown is based on the preservation and the restoration, and the great care has to be taken with it. And random and unnecessary demolition, which is basically, I think, what you heard from everybody in this room, should not be on the table. So it's a wonderful thing for the community, for Medina, to have this group of people here with this knowledge that they are willing to share so that we can get to a successful outcome. My concern is a couple things. One is the reference to we're going to check with our boss. And it seems odd to me that if there is a partnership between the city and the county, I'm presuming the boss is the county. And not the city, don't answer it. I'm just saying, it appears to me because that's where you keep looking. To Beth's question, and Beth is on the Historic Preservation Board, which is the organization that was formed to protect the square from the things that the county is apparently thinking of doing. Her question wasn't, will you come to the board? It wasn't, will you bring what you're supposed to bring? It wasn't, will you talk to us? It's when we make a judgment, will you follow? Will you comply? Because everybody else in the district has to comply. It isn't, well, we work things out with people later. This isn't necessarily about working out. It is about, will you comply? You cannot plan a project in the newspaper. If you're going to plan this, it needs to be done this way. Wholly engaged with the people that need to be present and the voices need to be heard. You cannot do it in the newspaper. Yesterday's newspaper, county administrator said, well, we're going to keep the pillars. What does that mean? We're going to keep the pillars. Our commissioner said the courthouse will have a lifespan of 30 years. Bears race. I have a Honda Civic that's 15 years old and it still runs, and it did cost $38 million. One of the commissioners said that the entire district is Victorian. Well, that's nonsense. It is not all Victorian. Many of the major buildings are. If you want to walk around the square, you'll see, I believe at Historic Preservation, we just had the Oddfellows building that was built in 1900. Many of these buildings are infill. They are not Victorian. When you have commissioners that want to do the best, but consider, one lives in Westfield, one lives in Lodi, one lives in Hinkley. This is a decision of how the face of the square works that needs to be decided by the people that live here that have built this downtown over 50 years. Not on the whim of something that somebody thinks might look cute, but what's the right thing to do. So as we go forward, it is odd to me that you say we're not very far along in the process, because if I was going to build a building, and on my property there were buildings, I would certainly know full well before I started the planning if I was going to demolish the building or if I was going to repurpose the building. And so far what we have seen, because we saw the drawings that now you say aren't the drawings, even though we did see drawings, that we did see
study drawings.
I guess done by an intern, because nobody appreciated seeing the drawings. But I'm not sure that's why people are upset. I think people are upset, rightly so, because there was not this engagement with this whole group of knowledgeable people that are willing to come here in this time, which is not a good time to meet. Meetings should be held in the evening so folks can come. All these people came to give you their input, their expertise, and their help. So when we leave here, this meeting, it is imperative on the bosses, it does include the city, to take into account what you heard at the last meeting, what you heard at this meeting, and then follow that advice, because that's an absolute. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to say one thing, since I'd like to know who put this meeting together, this public meeting. Was it the commissioners, or who put it together? Who invited you and put it all together? Who put this meeting together?
I don't know if it came from the commissioners
Mr.
or the
Hudson,
mayor, it was
was
a
that
joint,
you that
it was
put
a
it
joint
together?
invitation.
No, Mr. Hudson, was it you, the commissioners put it together?
This was part of the process. This is actually a meeting for the architects.
I know,
to
but
meet
who
with
put
these
this
groups.
meeting together?
The architects and these groups.
They put, the architects put this meeting together? The
Yes.
commissioners didn't have anything to do with it? No, the reason I'm asking is because.
The nose is growing, my friend.
This is part of the
Okay, the
process
reason I'm
that the
asking-
commissioners and the city
Okay.
have engaged in, and
Okay.
want to engage the public. And so we asked the architects to
Okay.
hold stakeholder
Okay, the
meetings.
reason I'm
This is
asking
one
you-
of these stakeholder meetings.
Okay, the reason I'm asking you is because you're the commissioner. The commissioners are for this project, you've helped it along, you've got the contracts and everything, and so you helped put this meeting together. And I think that it's up to the commissioners to invite the townships and the trustees and the public to have another meeting. And shouldn't be just on Mary, who lives in Brunswick Hills Township. It should be the commissioners putting together a meeting and letting the public know when and where it's gonna be, so the people that are paying taxes, and it's gonna involve all of us, they should be allowed to speak.
Right, and you don't sign a construction management contract when you're saying you're still in the preliminary steps and you haven't even figured out what you're gonna do.
Right. Well, maybe you do, but,
Actually,
I read
it's
the
a normal process.
And you should be.
okay, so will you,
Not the decision.
you as the commissioner, since the commissioner is behind this and have told us we have no right to vote, will you put together a meeting for the public, for the stakeholders, for the public, for the township, village people, whatever? Not you.
I certainly don't have any issue with having, more.
Are you saying you will or you won't do it?
I am
You're
one
a
of three
commissioner.
commissioners, so I will have to talk with our other two commissioners, three reflected.
So you're gonna take a vote on whether we can have a public meeting, whether you have a public meeting, you're gonna vote on it?
We have to have a discussion on it, Kathy. I am not the sole commissioner.
Do you think it's a good idea that we have one?
I do.
So are you gonna get in touch with Mayor, or how are we gonna find out whether we're gonna have this, or the commissioners decided that we can't have it? How are we gonna know?
We will publish something.
You wanna
Yeah.
now try and close this out again?
Well, I appreciate everybody coming, I know the commissioner does, and the architects, because we had great feedback. I just have one question before we break that I meant to ask earlier. If we have a $38 million contract, does that include then, in that cost, the demolition of buildings?
Yes, by definition. I read the statute.
Did you include the demolition, was the demolition included in that cost?
That was identified in the